And the good news now, my speech will be shorter because he told two of the stories I was going to tell. What are you going to do? So 47 years, right? So people say that, if you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, let me tell you something. I loved what I was doing. But that's bullshit. I broke my ass. Working on weekends, working at nighttime. But you know what? You do it because you love the cause, right? And Manhattan Beer is second family to me, and you can't help but want to do those kind of things. So back to the beginning where it all started, and Simon was talking about that. So he got a little bit of the story wrong. So when I first interviewed with Manhattan Beer, I interviewed with a gentleman named Ron Williamson. Ron was your sales manager at the time. So I was working out in Crest Beer Distributors, and I came to the interview, and Ron was talking to me about how you're in Manhattan, you don't want to be in Queens, and at the bottom line, I was making X amount of dollars, and he said, you're going to make the same X amount of dollars. I said, well, that's not going to fly. There's no reason for me to do that. I've already got established customers, et cetera, et cetera. And so he said, we went back to Simon and they didn't hire me. Then I was in the hospital, and I was in there, and they would keep me over just for checkups and stuff. And Simon got word of that, and I get a phone call. And the guy comes in and says, there's a guy on the phone for you. I said, who is it? He said, I don't know. I said, who's this? He said, I'm Simon Berkson. I'm the owner of Manhattan Beer. So naturally, this is what I did. Fuck, you calling me in the hospital? So, bottom line, right? He said to me, hey, listen, I know you spoke to Ron Williamson. He's no longer with me. Bottom line, I'd like you to come in and talk in the way that Simon said it. So I pull up to 5th Street, right, between B and C.
C and D.
C and D.
Sorry, B and C. You're right.
B and
Sorry,
C.
B and C.
I have to correct the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're younger. You have a better memory.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. My grandkids will tell you that. Anyway.
No, I can.
By the way, that's my wife, Frances. And for those of you who do not know her, she comes without a filter. So anyway, so Simon calls me in the hospital, right? And he says pretty much what he's talking about. He says, listen, come on in for an hour, we talk, maybe we don't like each other, whatever, but he says, it's an hour. I'll come in, okay. So now I get down there, and I had to park my car on the sidewalk because there was no parking, and so I figured down there, not too good of an area back then. I don't know if it's any better today, but, so I go walking in, and I see there's 2 trucks being loaded, people running around, and I almost step in dog shit. So here I am, stepping over dog shit, right? And all of a sudden someone says, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm looking for Simon Berkson. So the person says, oh, just go upstairs. He'll be with you in about 15, 20 minutes. Okay. Is there a special way to get upstairs? Anyway, so I get upstairs, I'm looking down, right? There's a guy on the high-low, and he's loading the trucks. And I'm looking and watching his 2 trucks, trying to figure out, what am I doing here? And the guy jumps off the high-low, right? Takes off his warehouse jacket, goes over to a sink and a mirror, boom, 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 puts on a sports jacket, comes upstairs and says, hi, I'm Simon Berkson. That's a true story. That's a true story. So, stuff like that, happens in Hollywood, not in real life, usually. So I took the job, obviously, right, because he gave me a little uptick in salary, and I didn't have to pay tolls anymore going out to Queens, and that was the beginning of it. So I became the sales manager fairly quickly, probably within, I guess, about 6 to 8 months. Now, we weren't wasn't a very tough process. I think I had the strongest pulse of the 8 guys in the room, and therefore I became a sales manager. So when you think what this company is today and the way we started, Simon said, I'm going to work with you for the first day and go out and show you the ropes. So we got together, right? I think we hit one store. We got a phone call. He said, here's the route book. I'll see you later. And that was the training. But, the guy was the chief cook and bottle washer. He did everything, right? He routed the trucks. He loaded the beer, whatever had to be done. And that was the early beginnings of my Manhattan beer career.
Rich, in those days, the prerequisite was, can you hold the book, the route book, in your hand?
Right. Absolutely, that's true. Yeah. Right now, right, we got to go through tests, and you got to be recommended and everything like that. If you could carry a route book, we pushed you out on the street. That's just the way it was. And a lot of you won't believe this, but in the early days, we didn't have computers. Simon told you about when we went to get the first computer. And by the way, I never apologize for that little mistake. I didn't mean that. But so we used to report Monday morning, right? And they would hand you Monday morning's route book. There was one person in sales administration. There was one person in telephone answering. There was one person in handling disputes and stuff, and that was the same person, by the way. So you get your route book Monday morning, you'd go out, call in orders as you were going on. At the end of the day, you brought your route book back, and you'd pick up Tuesday morning's route book. Then this way, you come back at the end of each day, and then that same woman would be taking the sales from the day that actually went out in the truck and actually got delivered, and be updating the route books. Now, you guys all have computers, and you get that done in like 13 seconds. This poor woman, she did all that stuff, and we had our sales. We knew what they sold week by week, so it was pretty incredible. So the computer story, I don't need that one.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I should have checked with you.
I had some stories I was going to check with you, but I just canceled. So, Simon mentioned the post office. So I got called for the post office. My dad had a career in the post office. He worked 33 years. So I got called for the post office, full-time, benefits, etc., pension, right? And so I said to Simon, listen, I got this situation. I don't know what to do. And so he said, no, why don't you, I said, I'll try both of them for a while. So I used to come into Manhattan Beer early in the morning. I'd wind up working my way down to Manhattan over to 34th Street because I worked in the main post office. And then I would work from 4 to 12 there, go home and sleep, come back and do it again. And I lasted 33 days in honor of my dad's 33 years, I guess. But I remember I was talking to Simon, and he said to me, Rich, I can't promise you we're going to make it, but if we do, you'll never regret staying. And here I am 47 years later.
I just told them that.
Okay, so, give me 1 second. The page, 10 pages. Okay, so the way I've kind of looked at this is that Manhattan Beer, and now Manhattan Beer and Beverage, is like a great American success story. It is incredible from where it came from to where it is today. For those who have not read Simon's book, right? Simon's background, and obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? Simon was born in Europe. He was born in the internment camps after him and his parents got out of Auschwitz. So before they could come to America, the 2 to 3 years in those internment camps just to have the right to come to America. I think they've speeded up the process recently, haven't they? So the bottom line is, so Simon was born over there. His father came over here. I remember Simon telling me the story a number of times. He had $6 in his pocket. They were out in Long Island, right in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a tailor by trade, and he would go down, buy cloth, come home, make a suit, or make clothes, go down, sell them, buy more cloth, etc. Opened up a a business, and then eventually Simon was able to take out a loan and buy Houston Beer, and from Houston Beer started Manhattan Beer, and the rest is kind of basic history. So early on, my most memorable experience of Manhattan Beer, we were out to dinner, Simon, his father Milton, and myself. And we were out with a supplier, and you remember the supplier, right?
Which dinner?
Huh?
Which dinner?
Down in the village.
Oh, Henry's?
It might have been O'Henry's. The other day we were talking, you told me the supply. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, we were out there, and the conversation goes around, and they start talking about birthdays, right? So I'm October 30th, the day before Halloween. Everyone's talking about their different birthdays. And Milton says to everyone, I have 2 birthdays. Now, Milton at that time had to be in his 60s or 70s?
60s.
60s, okay. So me being a young buck, I'm saying, 2 birthdays, what is he talking about? And so he said, I was born on this date, and he rolled up his sleeve, and he said, this is the date I got out of Auschwitz. That has been seared in my memory since that night. And I think about that all the time, from time to time, as I've been through Manhattan Beer. It's one thing to read about the atrocities that have happened in this world, but to have lived them and to have been through them. And, anyone that's been at some of the retreats that Simon has spoken so candidly about, I mean, for the success, for the Bergson family at this point in time, I mean, from where they came from, it's heartwarming. So, over the years, there were people that tapped me on the shoulder and, said, hey, Rich, we got an opportunity over here and over here. And I never got to the point where I entertained it seriously. And I think that night is probably 90% of the reason why. So I've been here and I've watched the acorn become this great oak tree, right? I mean, you've heard some of the stories of when we started. It was just pretty crazy. And then, I was here when Labatt's Brewing finally actually appointed us the Rolling Rock distributor. We were selling the brand for years as a home D, and then we actually got appointed Rolling Rock. And we actually had 1 year where we sold just under 1 million cases of Rolling Rock. But naturally, Anheuser-Busch got their hands on it, and you see where Rolling Rock is today. I witnessed the first real industry recognition when Ian J. Gallo came in, and everyone knew that the Bud distributor was getting bottles of James, and they did. The Bud distributor from the tip of Long Island all the way up into the Hudson Valley, they got bottles of James, except Manhattan Beer got Manhattan and part of Queens. And that was kind of the first legitimate stamp on Manhattan Beer. It really was amazing. And if you don't mind me telling the story, wouldn't we, right? So we're sitting there, right? Simon's sitting behind the desk. Ernest Gallo he's looking at the financials, and he said, kid, I'm going to show you how to make money, right? And with that, I look up, and we had, a 2x4 lighting up there, and there's a rat running around there. Right?
It's a large mouse.
Well, if that was a mouse. Anyway, so I'm looking over at Simon, and then I see Simon finally realizes it too. And I would like to say, I guess we're mortified, but I don't think they ever noticed it. Or if they did, they were smart enough not to mention it. So we wound up becoming a distributor, and that was kind of a big deal for us back then.
1985.
1985. Yeah, I remember that now. And then the turbulent appointment of Gambrinus, right? Gambrinus came in at that time. Gambrinus had Corona and Modelo. And Modelo was even a brand? No, it wasn't even a brand then. Just Corona, right? And so eventually, through a lot of good luck and some persistence, we wound up getting Corona, which probably changed the course of Manhattan Beer. right, within 5 to 6 years, and it just continued, and you see where we are today.
We reluctantly expanded to Long Island. Reluctantly.
Oh, I remember. That was me. Yeah. I went out to Long Island, right? And we hired a guy named he was with the Bud distributor out there, and he fell on tough times with it or something. Ex-Marine. He was on a Holston trip with us as well. Anyway, he was one of those guys, whatever salesman we hired, give him point of sale, boom, you hit these 5 stores, and you better come back with sales. And I'm saying, I don't know if this is the approach. But anyway, I remember going out to the Forks, and I said to people, okay, when do you want your delivery? He said, when do I want it? Well, what day do you deliver? We deliver every day. And we found out real quickly how that's not a good idea. Right? You know, the one distributor would deliver on Tuesday, we'll do Tuesday. But the learning process to get from point 1 to today is just amazing. And then for me, I was here obviously for the 2 mergers, for first Canada Dry Cause and then Lobo, and those are not great days for Manhattan Beer because both mergers, regardless of all the pre-work that was done, the shit just hit the fan. It's just the way those mergers go. And then for me, the final ultimate seal of approval was the Metamorphosis up in Suffern. Absolutely state-of-the-art beer distributor. Anyone who has not been there, except for you, Scotty, you got to get up there and take a look at it. All right? And I love you for being here, Scotty. Don't take it wrong. So there's a few thank yous I have to go through here. First of all, I want to thank my family, my wife. Since 1990, when we got married, she's been supporting me, putting up with the late nights, putting up with all the nonsense. She just stands by me. Still no filter, but the bottom line is, she's always been in my corner. And when I went through my kidney transplant, you were there every day, and I love you. Thank you. My two sons, Christian and Kirby, right? Some of you know. Guys, stand up if you would, just so everybody can see. My 2 sons are such a joy in my life. You know, we all want our children to be better, and grow and do the right things. And I can say unequivocally, they've accomplished more and are better men than I ever have been. And I'm telling you, they're just 2 terrific young men. And their wives, Melissa, Carla, just 2 good people. And here's a fun fact.
Can I say something?
Here's a fun fact. Both of my sons are married to twins. It's a little fun fact.
You think that's funny?
To my grandkids, yeah, I'm telling you, you guys have brought more happiness in my life in the last 15 years, because my oldest is 15, right? And then 13, and then with my baby girl, 10, and there's my Lincoln, 6 years old. What's up with him? But absolutely just makes everything you do in life worthwhile. It's so terrific. Then some of the teams, right? The Suffern team, when I was up there for 13 years or so, right? Some of the people are here tonight. Thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate it. Give me some of that. The Bronx team, where I finished my career. Thank you so much for making my last year as enjoyable as my first. I mean, you guys were just terrific when it came to everything. And I know you were well schooled by Mr. Romero. And then I saw Mike was here. Is Mike still here from downtown Manhattan? one of the first teams I managed, and Mike is still here, God bless him. A few people that I need to say thank you to. Simon, you've done nothing but right by my family, by me. The one thing that, as this company changes and as we become more efficient and those kind of things, the one priority is that I think that, that you've always, business was business and people were people. And you've treated them like that, and everyone in this room appreciates that. I know that. Thank you. My man, Rich Romero, I got to say a few words about you because Rich Romero started as a sales associate in this company, right? And worked his way up the line. And I remember mentoring him and saying to myself, this guy is going to be terrific. And as it turned out, as the life goes full circle, he was mentoring me the last year, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Rich. I got to say a word about Billy DeLuca, because Billy, I'm so proud to call you a friend. You're a tough leader, and that's the way it should be, but you're a softie inside, and a lot of people know that. But, I didn't hear that. Just to give you an idea, when I had the kidney transplant, right, and one day my wife needed a ride down to the hospital, and I was talking to Billy. He had called me at the hospital, whatever, and he was going to come up to the hospital that day. But they changed, it was COVID, they changed the rules, one visitor at a time, et cetera, et cetera. But he went up, got my wife, drove her to the hospital. I mean, you know how busy everybody is, et cetera, et cetera. But he took that time, and I'll never forget that, Billy. Thank you. And then last but not least, I don't know if I'll get through this, but bear with me. Mike Lettieri. Whenever I speak at the National Kidney Foundation or one of the outings, the golf outing, whatever, I always say that Mike and Jackie are the only married couple I know that are both kidney donors. How amazing is that? Jackie has worked tirelessly at the National Kidney Foundation raising money. Mike supports her every nook and cranny, everything he can do. And Mike's one of those guys, you never know he did anything because he takes no credit for it. More importantly, Mike is my kidney donor. So, some of you know the story, so just bear with me a little bit. So Jackie's mom, who got a kidney from Jackie, not directly, but was struggling again about 12 years later, something like that, and she needed another kidney. So Mike went down and got tested right away, and don't you know, they were a match. And, the chances of them being a match is about 100,000 to 1. Based on all statistics. So Jackie's mom was quite sick at the time, and the doctor said, we can't do this until we get her healthier. Unfortunately, she passed in the next couple of months, and a week later, Mike and Jackie walked up to me and said, we want to give you the kidney. Who does that? How does that happen? Was I sent here to Manhattan Beer and stayed here because of that? Mike saved my life by that kidney transplant. And the odds were 100,000 to 1 would be a match. And every time I've talked to Mike about it, no matter what I say, says, Rich, it was nothing, you know. And the funny part about it is that when we came out of the operation, and the next day, he came to my room because he was going home, and I was going to be in for a few more days. And so I was saying, I said, when I finally came to in recovery, the doctor was saying, boy, you've got a good kidney. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says, you're already outputting 10 ounces an hour, which is terrific. I said, okay, great, great. And then when Mike came in the room, he said that when the surgeon came into him, he was doing 12 ounces with the kidney that he kept. And I said, you son of a bitch, you gave me the shitty kidney. So I'm going to leave you with this in the words of Maya Angelou. She said, people may not remember what you said, and people may not remember what you did, but people will remember how you made them feel. And you guys made me feel great tonight. Thank you.
So with this, Rich, this is just a plaque, but it's a plaque that hopefully you'll keep forever and will remind you of us every day. In recognition of 47 years of dedicated service, your commitment, integrity, and contributions inspire us all with deepest appreciation from your Manhattan Beer and Beverage Distributors family. Congratulations. So I whispered over to Rich as I came over, does that mean every time you pee you think of Mike? And he responded, only when it burns. Enjoy the afternoon. There's a truck outside with food, I think hot dogs, there's an ice cream truck, there's food over here. Enjoy yourself. Thank you, everyone.